Welcome to another episode of This Woman Works. I am your host, Mike Patton, and on this episode, I have someone that is selling houses across the Nashville area and doing it very, very well, might I add. That would be Mrs. Dawn Tyus. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you for coming on the show. We're going to get into your story. We're going to talk about your journey, how you got to where you are, which I will say, for those that don't know the story, you're in for a treat. Just want to, get your story and everything like that as we go along in this episode. But with every episode, we always start off with the Black Girl Magic moment. It could be anybody, but today we chose Octavia Spencer. Now, Octavia Spencer is an actress that is from Montgomery, Alabama. She was born May 25th, 1970. Her father died when she was 13. So it was basically her and her mom, from 13 on, pretty much. And her mom actually was a maid, which, is funny because, thinking about the help maid,
Rolling out.
there you go. She graduated from Jefferson Davis High School in Alabama in 1988 and went to college. Graduated from Auburn. Actually, she's actually an Auburn alum. Which I had
Okay.
no idea.
I did
Um,
not know.
she actually was an intern on the set of The Long Walk Home. That was a movie that Whoopi Goldberg was in
Mhm.
1990, but she didn't get her first film debut until 1996 as a nurse in A Time to Kill, and she actually was not supposed to be in that movie. She actually was originally brought in to do the casting, but Joel Schumacher, the director, asked her if she would audition for the role, which she got.
Amazing.
Um, and of course, a year later, she moves to Los Angeles on the advice of her friend Tate Taylor. Remember that name, Tate Taylor? It's going to come back and play in a minute.
Okay. Tape to
Um,
tape.
she Tate Taylor. She'd be out there for a while, of course, taking roles in movies like Never Been Kissed, Big Mama's House. She was in Spider Man, one of the original ones in 2002. Bad Santa, Coach Carter. I remember her playing that mom and Coach Carter, are the one of the big men in that movie. And of course, she also had some appearances in multiple TV series along the way. Um, another role, just throw another role out there. 7 Pounds. She had a small role as Rosario Dawson's nurse that basically got a lot of acclaim. But in
Okay.
2011, that is when she had her big role, which was a movie called The Help. Now, this movie was actually directed, written, and produced by none other than Tate Taylor. So you see how that connection paid off?
Yes.
Yes. So she
It
gets
doesn't seem like it was
2012
that
Help.
long ago.
No, it doesn't, right? Yeah, time flies, right?
Yeah.
Um, she ends up getting a Gold Globe for the Best Supporting Actress, and it can basically an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress as well. And let's see, Hidden Figures comes out. She gets an award. She gets nominated for that. She becomes the first black woman or black actress, I should say, to follow up an Oscar win with another nomination. So that's a piece of history that she is.
That is amazing.
Of course, 2019 Ma, that was kind of like a horror film. If you ever
Mhm.
saw that, she plays let's see, Sue Ann Ellington in that movie. In that
And she
movie,
plays
I
crazy.
definitely, yes, she does. Now she did also executive produce and starred in Madam C.J. Walker, as
Mhm.
Madam C.J. Walker in the Netflix biographical limited series Self Made. So yeah, she pretty much did everything in that, and she is a incredible actress. Every role she plays, you believe she is that role because
Mhm.
plenty of people probably don't remember her from Big Mama's House, but I completely remember her role in Big Mama's House just because of the intensity that she had in the role and just her eyes and just everything that she brought to that role. I mean, Ma, you can't forget that role. The just the cold and callousness and the ability to flip the switch on and off in that
Mhm.
movie. I
She
mean,
has
for
good
that, I
range.
got yes, she does. She has
Mhm.
incredible range. That was what I was looking for. She has incredible range, and I want to make her the Black Girl Magic moment for this episode. Now, Don, do you have anything you want to say about Octavia Spencer or any of her acting?
I think that I really feel like her career is just beginning, honestly. I think she has years and years of more experiences that are going to be center stage for us to be able to see her in. And she's just a phenomenal actress. Like, just like I said, she has great range. So I love her.
Yeah, she definitely has great range, but another person that has great range is you, Don. You have done a few things in your lifetime. But we're gonna get started with young Don. We can't go figure out everything else. We got to figure out where you came from first. So, where did you
Okay.
grow up?
So I grew up in a town in central Illinois, Decatur, Illinois. So it's 2 hours from Chicago,
Mhm.
2 hours from St. Louis, 2 hours from Indianapolis. So just right in the middle of Illinois. Small town. When I growing up there, just very community. Everyone kind of knows each other. A lot of people are related. Our town is mostly comprised of people who have migrated from the South. So our grandparents, our great grandparents, they came from the South to work because it was a manufacturing town. So that's where I was born. Well, I actually was born in Champaign, Illinois, which is 45 minutes away, but I was raised in
Mhm.
Decatur. So yeah, my
Okay, so
family's still there.
Champagne.
Yeah, Champaign,
Okay,
U of
so
I.
yep. That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. They were most recently in the NCAA tournament. For
Mhm,
those that aren't
mhm.
aware,
Yep. Yes.
and of course Decatur. Georgia folks. I hate to tell you, but there is a Decatur up north too. They may
Mhm.
say
There's a Decatur,
Decatur lives right
Alabama
there.
too.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it's just Decatur's everywhere, right?
Yes.
So, you gave me a little hint of how it was growing up, but how was it? The full experience growing up in Decatur, Illinois.
Um, it was a great experience. And I'll say that so that I can kind of highlight in a little bit how it is now. But it was a
Hmm.
good experience. Just being out when you think about when you were young in the 80s. I was born in 77. So, I got to grow up in the 80s and the 90s. And, being outside with your friends all day, that community feel, just being able to experience like that new age of hip hop. Like that's what Decatur was. um, a lot of people that I knew from when I was young, some of them have left Decatur, but there are some that are still there. And, we often reminisce on how it was to grow up there. When I think about, my specific childhood, I was raised by my grandmother. So in my grandmother's home, it was multiple people that lived there. I had an aunt that lived there and an uncle. My little brother lived there, my mom. And so I grew up in a large household. um I was a tomboy growing up. Hard to believe when people see me now. They're like, no way. I'm like, yeah, I was, because I grew up with a lot of boys on the block. So I had to learn very quickly how to navigate that as a very small girl, because again, people who know me, I have a very small stature. And so I was always the smallest amongst everyone. So I had to learn how to hold my own amongst the boys. And it was a fun time. It was great growing up there. I wish it was the same that it used to be, but obviously, times change and environments change. But it was a great experience growing up there. I have a lot of good memories.
Okay. Well, one memory you might have is the first thing you wanted to be as a kid. I know I still remember some of the things I wanted to be as a kid. I wanted to be Turbo from Breaking Two, Electric Boogaloo. I really want to be a
Not
breakdancer when I was a
breaking
kid.
two.
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to be Turbo. I wanted to be, dancing on the ceiling and all those different things. Yes.
Mhm.
And dancing with the broom too. Can't forget that.
Okay.
Of
Okay.
course I wanted to be an NFL football player as well, but of course those two things did not happen. So for
Mhm.
you, what was the first thing you wanted to be as a kid?
Honestly, as far back as my memory can take me, when I think about career wise, um, I didn't have a specific career I wanted to be in. I knew I wanted to be a businesswoman, and that came from watching. Like I idolized her as a youth, but Claire Huxtable. So growing up watching the Cosby Show, Claire Huxtable was my muse for real. Like I wanted to be a businesswoman. I wanted to dress up and have my briefcase and have that bouncy hair like hers, like all things Claire Huxtable. I wanted to be a mother like she was. I wanted to be a wife like she was. So just really, I emulated myself after her. But, as I got older, of course, things change and, you grow out of those
Mhm.
childish ways. But I think I have kind of circled back to that just a little bit. But yeah, I just wanted to be a businesswoman.
Okay, all right. So, not necessarily like Jay-Z. Jay-Z says I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman, but
I'm a
no, no.
business.
Kind of
Mhm.
we gonna flip that
Yes.
over for you, Don.
Yes.
But you know, in your career, you ended up being a businesswoman. We're gonna kind of get into that and what
Hmm.
all that entails for you and that journey to that right after this commercial break on
Okay.
This Woman Works.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off all these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get these the EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash.
All right, and we are back on This Woman Works. And like I mentioned before the commercial break, we're going to get into your journey, your career. Now, you know, you currently, do real estate.
Hmm.
And of course, if you want to tell anyone else any other things that you do you do any other things besides real estate currently right now?
Well, let's just say I've done a lot of things in my adult life, career wise.
Hmm.
I've been a licensed cosmetologist. So I was a cosmetologist for 10 years full time. Um, and I went into my original degree. So I do have a master's degree. And so my original degree was education. And I
Hmm.
recently left my 15-year career as an educator. So I left teaching in May of 24, to pursue real estate full time. I was already doing real estate dual career, but I felt it was
Hmm.
time to go out full time. And so that's what I do now. And I'm a full time realtor here in Metro Nashville. And it has been so amazing. It has been such an amazing journey. Like truly love it.
Now, of course, we've got to find out. You're doing you're teaching and then you're doing real estate. You're doing both at the same time, and then all of a sudden, boom, you decide you want to do real estate. So
Mhm.
I've got to ask, when did you first kind of get the itch to do real estate?
So it really was a long time ago. So in the 90s. So
Okay.
while I was in college, my major was family and consumer science, with an emphasis on consumer affairs. And so, in consumer affairs, as buying real estate, you're a consumer. We're all consumers when you're buying goods and services. And so, I had a specific class that was called housing, which you learned, about different structures of homes and styles of homes. And I really truly loved just being able to look at how homes were built and the structure of them, the different styles. I like to create. And so that really got me interested in real estate per se, not selling real estate, but just real estate itself. And it wasn't until probably 2013, 2014, I was like, I think I want to get my real estate license. Like I would watch HGTV like everybody else
Hmm.
does. And then I was like, that looks easy. I could do that. So I would watch HGTV and House Hunters. And I said, I want to do it. And it wasn't until we moved here in 2016 is when I decided like I'm really going to do it. So 2016 was when, I made the decision. I'm going to go to real estate school. I'm going to get my license. I'm going to try this real estate thing. And it just happened. I just fell into it. And like I said, it's been a really wonderful experience. It's hard work. So, I don't want anyone to think that it's anything like HGTV because it is not. It is not like Selling Sunset and all of those, different shows, that the reality TVs that you see, it's not that. It's much more than that. And it's much more rewarding than that. And, just being able to help people with, realizing their real estate dreams. It's very rewarding, especially when it comes to working with people of color, which is my passion.
Okay. All right. So, um, when did you kind of get, so you got first super serious about it? It sounds like in 2024 when you kind of, left teaching to go
Mm-hmm.
towards being a full-time real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was that? Can you describe that time and that moment and that feeling, just making that decision and like, okay, cool, this is going to be what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to go, and I've got my mission. This is where I'm going to, execute it.
I think the time really came. I started getting like the itch to leave education in 2021. So, as we were, in the middle of COVID and, just kind of, navigating through that. And I just started to get the itch, like, I'm just really ready to be done. But there was a fear there. And I think that's a healthy fear that anyone who is an entrepreneur and wanting to seek full-time entrepreneurship, that's a healthy fear to have, because, you don't know. Being an entrepreneur is like waking up every day unemployed. Your
Mm-hmm.
paycheck depends on other people versus getting, a set paycheck every 2 weeks or what have you. And so fast forward to this past school year, just for me, my mental health just was not the best with teaching. I just wasn't there anymore. Mentally, I was not there. I was checked out. Um, you know, it was just, I felt like I was not there mentally for my children. And so I was like, you know what? I think I want this school year to be the year that I'm finished. And I didn't make that decision until March of 24. Every March, typically the principals will send out an email like, hey, to all staff, like, are you returning, retiring, resigning? Are you going to transfer? And I don't even remember typing. I don't remember typing the email. I don't remember responding to him. I just know I responded. And the only reason I know I responded is because I got a response back from him. And,
Mm-hmm.
I basically was like, I'm not going to return next school year. And it took those last couple of months of school, it was surreal and it didn't seem like it was really happening. But when I walked out of those doors on May 21st, I was like, I'm really doing this. And, I have no regrets at all. No regrets.
Okay. So, in stepping into real estate and just, going full head on into it, did you have that moment that you were like, this is where I'm supposed to be?
When I felt like this is where I was supposed to be, it was last May. So basically at the end of the school year, I
Mm-hmm.
had a client that closed. She was a young girl. She was only 21. She had just graduated from Tennessee State University like 2 weeks prior. And she closed on her first home. She bought a townhome. She had, surprisingly, she came into some money and she didn't want to rent anymore. And she was not going back to Chicago. She was going to stay here. And she bought her first home. And when I think about when I was 21, I was in no position. I didn't even know any information about purchasing a home, even though my grandmother was a homeowner. I was not, savvy with my finances, didn't really have anyone teaching me about finances and being a homeowner. And so being able to help a young girl like that realize her dream, and not just a young girl, but a young Black girl realize her dream and be able to purchase her first property, and just how she took it in and how serious she was. That's when I knew. I was like, you know what? I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm helping other people, especially other people that look like me, be able to help bridge that wealth gap, close that wealth gap a little bit, by becoming homeowners. And so that was a turning point for me and just made me just want to go even harder.
Okay. All right. So, you kind of touched on the point I was getting ready to touch on.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely in talking to you, of course, previous to the show, it seems very important to you to kind of close that gap between people that look like us and people
Hmm.
that don't look like us. So
Hmm.
how critical was that in your decision in terms of getting into real estate?
It was very critical. Uh, you know, and I kind of made a few months ago, I made a post about this on social media. I often see a lot of people like on social media asking about, like credit repair or looking for new landlords that maybe work with credit challenged people. And for me, what bothered me is, what are you doing to stop this cycle? Like, how can I help? How can other people who are in the industry like me, how can we help you to get out of these credit woes, or where you don't have to keep depending on a landlord to be able to accept your credit challenges to get you in a home? What can we do to help? And so that really was important to me because we are behind. We're behind financially. We're behind in the sector of real estate, not just as consumers, but even as real estate agents, when you compare us to our counterparts. And so it's super important to me to be able to add that educational piece. And that's where I come in as a teacher still. I'm still always teaching. I may not be in a physical classroom with other people's kids, but I am in our classroom of the world, teaching adults and young adults especially how to scale when it comes to their finances, and making sure that they're making good sound financial decisions when it comes to their money. And that also means investing in real estate and understanding that it's not just about a place to live. It's also about having that investment and being able to use that to pass down to your children and create generational wealth for generations to come. That's super important to me.
All right, definitely appreciate the kick in the knowledge and
Mm-hmm.
also just the purpose that you have in what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, with everything that you do or anything in life, there is always some hurdles that you have to come across. We're gonna get into those and maybe some advice you would have, not only for those following in your footsteps or some that might be interested in getting a house. We're gonna do that and more right after this commercial break on This Woman Works.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on This Woman Works with Miss Dawn Tyus. And like I mentioned before the commercial break, we are going to go into the hurdles and advice portion of the show. Now, like I mentioned, there's always great things that happen in business, but there's always hurdles that you see to get there. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that we see in terms of people doing those things, but not necessarily everyone around us see. So we're kind of hone in on that just for a second. I gotta ask, what's the biggest hurdle that you kind of faced along your journey?
I think the biggest hurdle for me was not being a Nashville native. So coming
I
here and
that's me right here, Nashville native.
coming here and not having what we call in the real estate world a sphere of influence. Yes, I have a sphere of influence, but a lot of them were in Illinois. So coming
Mhm.
here and not knowing a lot of people and trying to build my business was very difficult. That was a big hurdle. And that really is what kind of held me back in those first couple of years of real estate. My first couple of years were very difficult and not as fruitful as I would have liked them to be. But I think, once I, got out and started networking more and just getting to know more people, that really did help fuel my business and, like get me going to where I needed to be professionally.
Okay, all right. So it sounds like you overcome it by kind of putting yourself in different spaces,
Mhm.
where it might have been you kind of stepping outside your comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I've always been a pretty, extroverted person, like
Hmm.
not the life of the party, so to speak, but, I like to get out. I like to socialize. I like to have get togethers and things of that nature at the house. But it's different when you are no longer in your comfort zone. It's different, when I was back home in Illinois and, I know everybody, but when you're here and you're still trying to just like figure out, where you belong and, what fits your personality, it is kind of difficult.
Okay, all right. So as far as advice for anyone that maybe stepping into a new market or stepping into just real estate in general, what would be the biggest bit of advice you would give for someone to kind of, I guess, start that path?
So, if it's someone who is interested in getting into the real estate industry, one thing I would really tell them is just to make sure you are always out networking. And every person that you encounter should know that you are a real estate agent. And while it
Hmm.
may not always turn into business, someone's going to remember your name. Someone's going to mention your name in a room that you may not be in. So, it's super important to get out there and network. Also, just understanding that you have to always be working at your business. If this is something that you're going to do full time, you can't just wait for buyers to be dropped in your lap or for someone to knock on the door and say, "Oh, will you list my home?" It doesn't work like that. You have to really be out seeking your business and working hard and marketing and showing your face and being top of mind to everyone so that you can be able to build your business.
Okay, and as far as someone that's actually trying to purchase a home,
Mhm.
I'm gonna kind of open the floor and allow you to kick your expertise to everyone. Seeing being that
Absolutely.
you've done this for a while, so what would be some advice for someone that is looking to maybe purchase a home eventually?
So definitely, I'm right. Even right now, I'm working with a few buyers, and I just had a home buying workshop actually last week. Couple things I tell people is one, know your financial profile. So just making sure that you are knowing what your credit is looking like, making sure that you are on top of any debt that you have, and being realistic about your income and debt. So when I say being realistic, understanding that I think the myth is some people think that you have to make a whole lot of money to be able to purchase a home, which you don't, but you do need to be realistic about the type of home that you're purchasing and what your buying power is. And understanding that you may be approved for a certain amount, that's just an approval. That doesn't mean that you have to spend that. And so, I think that
True.
sometimes people think that when you're getting your first home, you have to be in your forever home or the dream home initially. No, baby steps. You have to crawl before you walk. And so, if that means you're getting a smaller home, and maybe it's a townhome, maybe it's a condo, maybe it's something that needs a little bit of work, that's okay. You use those things to be able to fuel your next purchase. You use that to be able to gain some equity so that you can sell that home or maybe even turn that into an income property later and then get your next home. But just understanding that buying real estate is not, it's not a microwave process. It is very much slow cooker. And so you want to make sure that you're getting a qualified professional named Don Tyus. Oh, and so getting a qualified professional to help lead you in the right directions as well as help navigate that journey, getting a pre-approval from a great lender. I have some great lenders. Being open and understanding that there are different programs that you can utilize to be able to help with down payment or closing costs. Being open to your location. Like you can't tell me that this is just for context. that your income is maybe at, I don't know, 60,000, and you want to live in a high rise on Demumbrian. Like, it's not gonna work. So we have to be really realistic about your location, as in accordance with what you're approved for, and just being open, and don't compare your situation to other people. It's been a lot of times when I've talked to new buyers or prospective clients, and they're like, well, my coworker told me that they XYZ. Well, your coworker may not have the same financial profile as you, or your coworker may not have the same goals that you have. So not listening to other people when it comes to one of the most major purchases that you will make in your life. You can't listen to everyone else because their situation may not be yours.
That's correct. That's correct. And
Yeah.
last thing I want to ask is, what's the biggest bit of advice that someone has given you in terms of your career arc and your, just your career journey?
I would say the biggest advice is you don't take, I don't know how to word this, but basically don't take every transaction as a transaction. These are relationships that you are building with people, and they are, trusting you again with one of the biggest purchases that they may have in their lifetime. And so not looking at every one of those clients as a transactional type of thing. Getting to know your clients, getting to know their family, some of their fears about buying, some of the things that they're looking forward to. What's their favorite color? What's their favorite sports team? Like, getting to know them to where at this point, that's my family. And I hope I get an invitation over for Thanksgiving in your new house, So just looking at it in that manner is super important, because one, that makes them trust you more. And two, then you're proving to them that I'm not just looking at just selling you a home or helping you to buy a home or listing your home. I really am invested in what you're doing.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, you've given a lot of great advice. We have found out about your career, and we found out about where you grew up in Decatur, Illinois. Not Decatur, Alabama, Decatur, Georgia.
Decatur, Illinois.
But we do have to find out more about you. Allow the listeners and viewers to learn more about you, and that is where the speed round comes in. I got 10 random questions for you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Okay, let's go.
All right. Your favorite movie?
Oh, I have a lot of favorite movies. Don't laugh at me, though. Grease is one of my favorite movies.
I'm not even mad.
I love Grease. I love Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, I still remember. You gotta keep tough. Yes. I remember that. Yeah. I remember that. So yeah, I've seen that movie so many times growing up. So yeah. Okay. Favorite song in rotation right now?
Oh. Favorite song in rotation would be Good Looking Adjectives by Akeem Ali.
Okay. All right. There we go. Now, if y'all haven't listened to him, I suggest you do. But worst movie you've ever seen?
Oh God. Janky Promoters.
That was funny. That was a funny one. It was kind of interesting. Oh man, it was interesting. It was interesting. I'll give it that one.
That's the word.
Favorite artist?
Artist. I don't have a favorite artist. Well, I do. He's just not with us anymore. Prince is my favorite.
Somebody knows. It'll be like, let's see. Your favorite food?
My favorite food, chicken. Fried chicken wings, fried hard, all flats.
Okay, I was gonna ask flats or drums, but
yes, all flats.
All right. Favorite restaurant?
So I don't go out to eat a lot because I don't trust these people. So I will say, if I have to just absolutely choose, I'll say I do love J. Alexander.
J. Alexander. Yeah, that used to be the restaurant when you're going out to eat. And it's after a big church Sunday or something. Oh, we going to J. Alexander. Oh,
okay, yes. That means it was going to be fancy.
Yeah, it was definitely gonna be fancy. Best childhood memory.
My best childhood memory, I guess I would say, would be my summers.
Hmm.
You know, I don't know how it is in larger towns or in other people's small towns, but in our town, we would have the park programs. And that's where, you
Hmm.
know, you would have your park leaders and they would be at the park and, you know, they have the park lunches and play tetherball and jump double dutch. And I don't know if you remember like the little strings where you could make the keychains. They were like
Uh-huh.
we call them bondoogles. And I was the
Okay.
bondoogle queen. Like someone just reminded me the last time I was home, like, do you remember how you would always start our bondoogles for us? Yes, I do. But that was like my favorite childhood memory because you just didn't have a care in the world as a kid. And those summers were
Mhm.
phenomenal from sun up to sundown. So yeah.
Okay. All right. You're out to dinner with one person, dead or alive. You get to pick their brain. Who is that one person?
Alive, Issa Rae. I
Hmm.
love her. She is super brilliant. She is a creative, like her business sense, her creations. Like I just absolutely love her. So I would love
I'd
to
say
go to
her
dinner.
principles too. I'd say her principles too for what she recently did.
Uh, that is true. Yeah, she's amazing.
Very much, very much. Let's see. Favorite vacation?
That I've been on.
Yeah.
My favorite vacation would be I just real recently, and I wouldn't call it a vacation, I would call it an experience. I just recently went to South Africa in January for 8 days.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it was a phenomenal experience and probably one of the best experiences I've ever had.
I've got to make it over there one time.
You have to.
Uh,
And yes, definitely. It was a good
now this
experience.
now this last question. This always gets very interesting answers. Who would play you in a biopic?
Who would play me?
Mm-hmm.
I would say
I get that type of look too. Usually.
I think when I think about that, I think my personality is probably most closest to Regina Hall.
Okay. All right. I
Yes.
can see it. I can
Yes.
see it. I can see it. All right. All right. You know,
Yeah. I think my
I was gonna
personality is
throw
most closest to her.
Kimberly Elise. I was gonna throw Kimberly Elise out
Kimberly
there.
Elise. Okay. I haven't even seen her on
Hmm.
the big screen in a while, but okay.
Yeah. Hey, I'm
Okay.
just throwing stuff out there, but hey, it's not my world, it's your world on this show. I'm just
Okay.
living in it, and we have
I
reached
feel
the end of the
that.
speed round. So I want to thank you for coming on the show,
Thank
telling us
you
your
for having me.
story. Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. Now, of course, the floor is yours. If you want to tell anyone any things that you're working on, any information about you, of course, we got information if you're watching. It's going across the bottom of the screen where you can find Dawn and also where you can find Dawn on Instagram as well. But any other information that you want to tell anyone before we end the show?
No real information besides listen, if you have questions about homeownership or even investing, selling a home, or even becoming a real estate agent, I implore you to reach out, even if it's not to me, even if it's to another real estate professional. Don't just try to do this shot in the dark. Don't just go off of what people say on social media. Really for real educate yourself about the process and the benefits of being a homeowner, so that you can make a good informed decision. It's important. It's super important. And I think if people stop looking at it as just a place to live and decorate and look at it more on the investment side and what you're setting yourself up for your future and for maybe your children's future and your children's future, you will see that it is like one of the best things to be able to do as a consumer, and especially for people of color. We've got to get on the ball, and people will ask, it's cliche, people will ask, like, is this a good time to buy? And I'm always going to say it's always a good time to purchase a home. you know 2 years ago was a good time to purchase. but next year may not be. If you're waiting until next year, that price is going to be higher. I'm sorry, my kids are in the background. That price might be higher or the interest rate might be higher. So it's always a good time to purchase a home. So I would love to be able to have a conversation with people. You can reach me on my IG. You can go to my website and you'll see an area that you can click on that says, I want to work with Dawn, and you can put in your information and I'll contact you. And if it can be just a conversation, we go for coffee. Hey, I take people out for coffee all the time and we just talk, and see what comes of it. But I would love to help whoever I can.
All right. Well, one thing I want to say, I haven't got all the deep information that you got for, real estate, but I will say that you probably found out when you moved to the Nashville area that everything is 15, 20 minutes away. Everybody says that at least.
Listen, so before I moved here, I did think that, because I used to come to Nashville when I was young, like for family reunions and stuff. And of course, it was nothing like this. So I did think that when I moved here, but I also in my mind was smart because I told my husband before we came here, wherever I work is where we have to live because I don't want to do any heavy commuting. And that's what we did. So I only lived like 10 minutes from my school that I was in at that time. But now I got to drive all the time. So I'm all over the city.
Got you. Yeah. That's a running joke. Everybody that moves here, I tell them like, yeah, you probably got told everything's 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, because everybody says there's something's every 15, 20 minutes away. Yeah, it's funny. But of course, a little Nashville humor. But of course, my name is Mike Patton. I'm the host of This Woman Works. Of course, you can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter. I will not call it X because only X I recognize is DMX and Malcolm X.
It's DMX and Malcolm X. Period.
So, you can find me on there, Mike Patton 82. That's MikePatton 82. You can also find me on Blue Sky as well. Instagram and Threads, you can find me at the CHA, not THE _general_MP. This Woman Works, you can find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there. And we're also on YouTube where you can subscribe. Check the bell. Also, of course, leave some comments and share it around if you would like. I thank you all for tuning into this episode. Thank you, Dawn, again for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Episode 44 of This Woman Works is in the books. We're out. Peace.